This week is GT3's at Barcelona moto layout for an endurance event. So it'll be a track guide with a hot lap with a little bit of endurance tips and tricks in there just so that you get an understanding of what you're really looking to do for a longer stint than a normal race for us. So no further introduction because there's a lot to go over. Getting out of the pits. Not that difficult. The only thing to really be worried about is staying to the right of the white line because most racers will be on the left side of the track unless they're fighting. So make sure you're not in anyone's way, and then you're going to have to brake a little bit earlier, especially with fresh tires and the fact that you're forced to be on the inside. So if you're really pushing, you can loop it very easily out there. So take caution. It's an endurance event. Don't worry about it, and you'll be out safely. With that, I will see you at the start-finish line. So we've crossed the start-finish. We're on the straight. We're on the left side because of the way that the last turn puts you out, and we're going in the first turn. And we're going to the first braking zone. We're really going to want to get to about, if the markers existed, about a 110 to a 120 meter marker. But to start out, we're really going to focus about the 150 marker and work your way up to that point. So you get used to the 150, break up to 140, 130, 120. And that really shows you how well you yourself can brake and how well your car can brake, because they all brake a little bit differently. And how well you can trail brake also dictates a lot of how far forward you can go. Now, this turn also is going to be a good opportunity for passing because you can go around on the outside and you can go on the inside. So if somebody defends on the inside, just brake a little bit later than you normally do and try and hold it on the outside, or go for an over-under. If you're passing on the inside, brake a little bit earlier, but make sure you're really holding this inside. Be careful though, if you hit this, which is okay for the most part, it will bump you a little bit to the left, and if you're really close with each other, you could get a little bit of contact. So, as I mentioned, hitting this isn't the end of the world, but it will push you to the left a little bit, which you just have to account for coming up to the next turn, which is, this is perfectly fine to hit. Totally fine. Just ride on it all you want. It's going to push you a little bit, but that's okay, because we have this great overrun over here. Kiss it, get off of it, because there's a little bit of a grass patch, which we don't want to be on a lot. Now, for this big sweeping right-hander, we really want to be hugging it as much as we can. Get to the apex, or a little bit past it, and then throttle. So we're going to be hugging it, hugging, hugging it, and then throttle, because that'll push us to this outside where we want to be. So now we're throttling. Brake point is going to be at the bridge or a little bit before it. Once again, kind of like turn one. Step towards that bridge, so start braking 2 or 3 car lengths before it, 1 car length before it at the bridge, and see where you feel the most comfortable braking for it. This turn is very difficult because, like a lot of turns at Barcelona, they're very enticing to throttle too soon. And in reality, you want to make sure you're on the inside, apex pretty late towards here, and then throttle, because you're going to get pushed outside really soon, and there's no runway outside of that little rumble strip. So after the rumble strip, we're going to keep throttling, and then our brake point's going to be right about here. So when we're taking it at speed, the road starts dipping down. That's at this point, right about the hill. You need to be braking right before that hill, because if you brake after the hill, you're just going to lose you're going to lose all of your braking potential and gain way too much speed. However, with that said, this is also a great passing opportunity. So if you're on the inside, you got to brake a little bit earlier, like I said on turn one. If you're on the outside, you can take this turn deep and then cut in and get a better run than the person on the inside. It's just all what you feel comfortable with and what your car feels comfortable with, because if you have a very low-end car, you can take the inside and you'll be fine. If you think you can hold it on the outside, hold it on the outside and you're also fine. But on a normal lap, brake right before the crest of the hill, brake really hard into this turn, drag your brakes into it, and once again, like a lot of Barcelona, wait. The name of the game is waiting in the corners, because you want to be picking up the throttle just after, or maybe even another split second after you think you should, because this runoff after the rumble strip is really only there assuming you made a mistake. Treat that as a safety net, and it'll be a lot better than treating it as your normal lap, because trust me when I say your tires will go, and you hit that sand, you're losing all of your time, if not spinning. So aim for the rumble strip for your normal lap. If you have to end up over here, it's okay, but don't believe that it's always going to be there as your safety net. So we're going into one of the trickier parts of the track because it just doesn't flow right, in my opinion. It feels like you should be able to push harder than you can on it. So a normal braking point for here is just before the rumble strip on our right. However, when you're really starting to push it, my normal point of braking is right at the start of the rumble strip, not the white part, the actual rumble strip part. And we're really targeting getting the braking zone done before the turn, because we want our car to be turned in before the actual turning, as our target point is right about here, past the actual apex, onto this extra bit of turf. That way, when we get bounced off of it, we're in line with the actual cut line, basically. So if we hit it right, our car will do essentially that. If we don't get it right, we're kind of in the grass either way. So feel that turn out. If you need to take it a lot slower, don't feel bad about it, because you need to conserve a lot there. If you get it wrong, you're gonna spin in an endurance event. That's really the worst thing possible. You can come back from it, but keeping car on track is the most important thing in these kinds of events. Coming to this turn, once again, kind of a hard turn, but it's really just about getting consistency. Just a slight dab of the brake just to get that weight on the front tires with the grip up. Maybe a downshift depending on how well you did. And you can put tires up here, but once again, like all of the other curbs, it's gonna push you in the opposite direction unless you hit it right, and if your car's running low, you're gonna bottom out on it. So if you can avoid it, avoid it. If your normal line is hitting it, it's not the end of the world on that curb. And this one's an okay one to be okay running wide on. Don't run too wide because there's obviously sand out there, but this is a normal line to be taking way out here, and you'll be fine. Hitting the grass is only slightly a deficit, especially if somebody's following you, as you have this whole long straight to really think about your your missed opportunity for all that speed. But you'll be okay. Now, you're going to be carrying a lot of speed into this next turn. Big braking zone for this turn is just like the first turn and the other turn before. Work your way to where you should be braking. I started braking here, and that's fine, so right around probably 75-ish. But when you really start pushing your laps, you're going to be braking right at that sign, like right where the pole starts with the sign, so probably right around 60 or 55. And that really just lets you slam on the brakes, think nothing else about it, and hard brake into this, hit this apex, let the car float a little bit outside, don't hit the grass, and then keep that turn going and hit this second apex that's in the turn. That way we're set up for the following turn. If you try and take that turn another way, which is possible, you're really risking floating too much into that grass, and you can't come back from that. You're gonna dip a tire and possibly spin. The safest way, and in my opinion the fastest way, was hitting both the double apex, because now I'm already set up for this next turn, which is again one of the more challenging ones. We're gonna break into it, and we're gonna keep holding off on that throttle, maybe give it a little dab to make sure I'm in line with it, and we're gonna go for a really late apex. And the reason for that is this turn radius really sharpens at the end, and we're going to make sure that we're just getting up on this curb. It's very easy on that turn to pick up the throttle too early and float too wide into that sand and just lose all of your time. We're really looking to do a late apex, get straight onto this line, hold basically 2 tires on the track, 2 tires on the rumble strip, and just get down the throttle as fast as we can. Going to this turn, we're really actually doing an upshift, even though we don't need to yet, just because we know we're going to be able to do that power, because it's going to be going downhill. So just a little lift, maybe a dab of the brakes if you're not feeling super confident. Make sure you cut as far right as you can. Don't go over the rumble strip, just kind of go near it. And then the normal line will be floating out here, and then 2 tires on the tarmac to the left, 2 tires on the green to your right. This is still a valid lap. That's going to be the fastest lap. If we decide that's not in good sport for the event, we'll make it well known, and the line then should be 2 tires on the track, 2 tires on the rumble strip. Either way, you'll see the hot lap. I did 2 tires on the pavement, 2 tires on the green. It's not that big of a deal. It just makes the last turn a little bit easier. You'll lose maybe a tenth or two at maximum. So then in the final turn, you're just doing a slight dab of the brakes, again, just to weight those tires a little bit and to make sure you're not going to go too far off to the left. And really just pick up the throttle as early as you can to know that you're going to hit this spot. You're going to hit this spot every single time. Don't go too far, but this is one of the points where it's worth risking being on just the very edge of that grass, because you have a very long straight and you need to keep that speed up, especially knowing that that first turn is a pretty big overtake spot and you have to be maintaining that speed the whole way through. So in general, that's the track. It's a pretty tricky track, but once you get the hang of it, you can do repetitive laps very easily. And in my opinion, it's a pretty good track. It's good fun, and it has a lot of good opportunities for passing. Just do it at the right place. There's a lot of places that you realize it's worth staying behind the car through a turn and then passing them when you get to the straight or into a bigger braking zone, instead of just trying to force it at the first opportunity that you have. But that goes into endurance racing, that you should just be a little bit smarter and a little bit more patient because you have the time to. Which then also you'll notice with a higher fuel rate and then the tires, you'll get good laps and then you'll start slowly degrading and you'll realize you'll start sliding more and more through a turn. Just maintain that. Know from your last lap to this lap to the next lap where you should probably be holding back a little bit more, maybe brake a little bit more, coast a little bit more through that turn because you know your tires aren't there anymore. But recognize that there's usually about 2, maybe 3 phases of the race or of your fuel stint where tires are great at the beginning, but you have a lot of fuel. And then probably right about halfway through, your tires are about halfway through as well, but you burned a lot of fuel and you'll see your times spike a little bit. So yes, be a little bit more cautious, but every so often try and test it. Not terribly, but just test it a little, 5 to 10% more, and see if you can gain a little bit more time in that stint as well. Just pushing isn't always the answer, but sometimes give a little bit more when you think you can. And in general, it's going to be a great event, good tracks, great cars, and here's a 142.9 on soft tires on a optimum track at Barcelona Moto.